Where two carts met, the moon what you give in secret will one day meet you in the open. In generous hands, subtraction turns into more. Love doesn't count sacks, it counts the footsteps taken for someone else in the dark. Two brothers lived in a quiet village. When their father died, they divided his land evenly and shook hands. Half for you, half for me, they said. They built separate barns with the same number of beams. They sowed in the same season and watched the same rain. Years passed. The older brother married 6 children, filled his yard with small shoes and sudden laughter. The house was loud and warm and always a little messy. The younger brother stayed single. His house was neat and quiet, with a single cup on the table and a coat by the door. Harvest came. Both barns held good grain. One night the younger brother lay awake, staring at the rafters. It isn't fair, he thought. We share equal land, but my brother has 6 mouths to feed. He should have more. He rose without lighting a lamp. In his barn he chose a sack of clean, heavy wheat, no sweepings, no broken kernels. He tied the mouth with a firm knot, lifted it to his shoulder, and slipped into the sleeping village. The path to his brother's silo climbed a small hill. The night was cool. He left the sack inside and walked home lighter than he left. That very same night, the older brother lay awake for a different reason. He stood by the window and watched the moon slide over the fields. It isn't fair, he thought. We share equal land, but when I am old, my wife and I will have our children to help us. My brother will have no one. He should have more now so he can save. He went to his own barn, picked a good sack, and carried it through the dark to his younger brother's silo. He set it down gently, smiled at the thought of his brother's surprise, and went home to bed. Morning came. The younger brother walked to his barn, counted the chalk marks on the wall, and frowned. The number of sacks had not changed. Strange, he said, and counted again. Across the village, the older brother also blinked at his own tally. Impossible, he muttered, but the numbers stood still. That night both men made a quiet promise. I must not have given enough. I'll take more. When darkness fell, each brother filled not 1 sack but 2, then added a third for good measure. The younger brother moved softly, careful not to wake the neighbor's dog. The older brother took the long path along the fence to avoid loose stones. Again they left grain in the other's silo. Again they returned home with warm satisfaction. And again, the next morning, both barns held the same count as before. By the third night, the mystery felt like a riddle the moon was asking. Tonight each said to himself, I will make no mistake. Both loaded carts until the wheels groaned. The younger brother checked each knot twice. The older brother placed a folded cloth on the cart handle to keep his hands from blistering. Each man set out at the same hour. There was a small rise between their farms. At the top, the road widened and the air felt open. The moon laid a pale path over the ground. Halfway up, each brother saw a shape moving in the distance, bent shoulders, steady steps, a cart behind. They stopped. The night held its breath. Brother, the older called softly. Brother, the younger answered. Once upon a time, in a village nestled between a river and a hill, there lived 2 brothers. They were different ages, but their hearts held the same warmth, a quiet, steady generosity. Each year when the harvest moon climbed the sky, they would secretly fill their carts with grain, more than they needed for their families, then drive up the hill and divide it between 2 barns, one for each of them. No one knew why they did this, not even their wives. Then one night, as they stood beneath the silver glow of the moon, they saw the truth all at once. The full carts, the tired smiles, the same idea born in 2 hearts. The younger brother's laugh came first, short and bright. The older brother's laughter joined it, lower and warm. They closed the few steps between them and embraced, wheat rustling like applause. I thought of your children, the younger said, and I thought of your old age. The older replied. They did not argue about who needed more. They did not push their carts up or down in pride. They simply stood in the moonlight, 2 men who had been generous in secret and had just discovered they were not alone in that kindness. After that night, they did more than trade sacks in the dark. They made the hill a meeting place. They built a small bench from old fence posts and set it under the tamarind tree. In the mornings they shared plans over tea how to rotate crops, which seeds were strong, which tools needed fixing. The older brother lent his ox when the younger needed to plow deeper. The younger brother watched the children on market days so his sister-in-law could rest. They still had 2 barns, but from then on they kept one ledger: work, time, and care, written not with chalk but with habit. People noticed. A mason repairing a wall told the story to a traveler. A schoolboy repeated it to his classmates. Soon the village knew there was something good living on that hill, something that made numbers act like they had hearts. One season, a storm knocked down a stretch of the older brother's fence. The younger showed up with posts and a hammer before the sun was high. Another year, the younger brother fell sick for a week. The older brother's children, with small, proud hands, tied up bundles, swept his yard, and carried soup to his door. "We are only returning what has been given," the older brother said when the younger tried to thank him. Harvests were not always equal. Some years the younger brother's grain was heavier. Some years the older brother's field shone brighter. But the worry that used to sit in each man's chest about fairness, about the future, grew smaller. On the hill they had found a better measure than equal halves. They had found enough, shared. Years later, when the children had become tall and strong, the two brothers took them to the bench under the tree and told them the whole story. The silent nights, the steady carts, the meeting in the moonlight. The children listened with wide eyes and then ran their hands over the bench, as if they could feel the laughter still inside the wood. "Remember this," the older brother said. "The happiest weight you will ever carry is something meant for someone else. And the strangest math you will ever see," the younger added with a smile, "is how your own life grows when you give." From then on, the hill was more than a rise in the road. It was a promise. On some nights, you could look up from the village and see two small lanterns meet there, the brothers walking together to check the path, to mend a loose stone, to share the day's news. Their steps were slower over the years, but the road between them stayed smooth.